Okay.
Welcome to WOW, World of Water. I'm Mark Miller, and today we're going to talk about being prepared, not scared, when disaster strikes. Things happen unexpectedly. We never know from day to day, really, at times, what the weather's going to do or other things in our life. But one of the things that we always want to make sure of that we're prepared as best we can for whatever comes our way. For example, you have flashlights. Why do you have flashlights? So you'll be prepared when it's dark and you need to get something or do something. Maybe you even have canned food. So now you're ready. And if there's a challenge getting food for a while, you have a way to have some food to eat. But have you thought about your water supply? How prepared are you if for 5 to 7 days, for example, there was no electricity, no way to get any water out of your faucet? What would you do? How would you survive? There are ways to do that are very simple. And sometimes we look at things and we say, well, there's too much to it, it's too complex, or I don't know whether I can figure this out or not, or is there really anything that works? What's nice about it, there are things that work. You just have to decide you're going to make the decision to do your part to where you're prepared, not just somebody else or not relying on somebody else. There are a lot of people that have to depend on someone else every day. And I don't want to be one of those. Yes, we need each other. We need to help each other sometime. But in an emergency, the more you can be prepared, the better off you are to where you can help somebody else as well. And that's what we want to try to do. And we want to try to help you and encourage you to do. Nobody can make anybody do anything, but sometimes it makes it better where if you're reminded of it, where you say, well, this is my idea, not somebody else's idea. It does make sense for me and for you to be prepared. And especially again, in a situation where there's water emergencies, be prepared, not scared. Think of things like during Hurricane Katrina, for example, there was thousands stranded without safe water. Some resorted to drinking contaminated flood water, whatever, anything they could because they didn't have any way to do anything else, and that, of course, made them sick and was a challenge in that way. Lives were lost, and not just from the storm itself, but from the lack of the safe water afterward. That can happen anytime, anywhere, any place, not just in a hurricane. There have been situations, for example, in Tennessee a couple years ago where I think it was 17 different counties. It was a flood and their water was contaminated. They had to boil water for days before they could actually utilize the water that did come through their faucet when it did come back. So, and others. I mean, there was a situation in Southern California a few years ago, water 5 feet going through their houses and their vehicles floating down the stream. That's not a good way to be prepared unless you have thought about that ahead. And with having a system that will do pure water up to 150 gallons per day, and you can take it out of any source except salt water, no matter how dirty the water is, it can purify to 99.99% pure with anything bacteria and viruses taken out and 100% of the microplastics. So to me, that would make sense. In fact, let's look at it from some other angles as well. For example, FEMA recommends storing 1 gallon per person per day, but few families actually do that. And of course, if you think of it, that would just be enough basically for drinking water and a little bit of water for something else. And I would think that it would be better to recommend, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment, more than just a gallon per person per day. There's floods, there's hurricanes, there's wildfires, there's earthquakes, there's all kinds of things that can disrupt the water treatment plants in minutes, for example. Here are some myths, some things that people are not really correct about or think they know, but maybe they don't. Some say, well, I'll just boil water. Well, boiling kills bacteria, but it doesn't remove some other things in the water. That is better than just drinking it without boiling it, but there's other ways to have something that helps more than just the bacteria. And to do more than that. Others say, well, I'll just drink bottled water until the stores run empty, for which happens in hours, of course. But I heard that a while back. I would ask some people, what would you do if there was no water coming out of your faucet, no electricity? And they said, well, I just go to the supermarket and I try to buy much as I could for me, try to get there first. I guess that's one way to think about it, but that's not really a good way. But some do, some think that way. So one day I live about 20 minutes from a supermarket, and I had an appointment that day in that city. So I got there early and I decided I wanted to stop by the supermarket before I went to my appointment. But there was something happened that made my mind change and what to say when somebody says, I just go to the supermarket and try to be first and get some water. So I got into that town and the lights were out, the stop signs, no lights, red, no green, no yellow. And then I pulled into the parking lot of of the supermarket. And when I pulled up, there was something different on there that changed everything about the way you would think about it. There was a big sign on the door. Of course, the lights were out as well, but there was a big sign on the door that said closed due to power outage. So how much water would you get if you got there first? None. They wouldn't let you in because the doors even are use electric. They can push them, but they're not going to do that. They couldn't take your money. The cash record wouldn't be clicking. So the amount of water that you would get in an emergency from the supermarkets or from your stores, that's not a practical answer. Store water, yes, that's practical to get it when you can, but also a way to purify more than just a little bit of water. Filters that don't require electricity are lifesavers, especially in times like this. So we talked about how much water do you need? Well, it's kind of like the minimum that you should have is at least 3 gallons per person per day. You have cooking, you have hygiene, you have the drinking water, all of those things, and even 3 gallons per day is better than none or better than one. But what would be better if you had the ability to have up to 150 gallons per day, where you could help you, yourself, and up to 300 others in an emergency to have a half a gallon of pure drinking water all day, every day, not just in an emergency when there's an emergency, but that can happen anytime. Think of what would happen also if by doing that, you actually help with the ecosystem by not having a bunch of plastic bottles that you purchased, and then all of that goes into the ecosystem, creates challenges there. But preparedness isn't paranoia; it's peace of mind. How would you feel about being able to say, okay, I have the ability with the filtration system I have that I could help my whole subdivision? That's what happened a few months ago. Someone looked at what we had and they were sitting in their home, and he just stopped and he said, there's about 300 people in my subdivision. I could help every one of them have pure water, even with no electricity, however long it took to be able to take care of that. And that's a good answer. You have a different situation, but anytime you can have more than just a little bit, and storing water, it makes sense to store water. Put it up, put gallons in shells or somewhere, and have that available. And then on top of that, to be able to have a system that you can purify water from any source, no matter how dirty the water is. You can take to a stream of any kind, rainwater stream, uh, rivers, lakes, whatever, and take the water out of there dirty, put it in a container, 5 gallon container or something, filter it through the safer, cleaner water system, and literally have up to 150 gallon of pure water, no matter what source it came from. Takes out the bacteria, the viruses, the 100% of the microplastics, and the easiest way to think about it, takes out everything that would make you sick. How does that feel if you had the ability to do that and help everybody you know? There's a way for you to do that through safercleanerwater.com. We also have our nonprofit entity, that we realize those that have the greatest need are those that are already being served by someone else for their food and everything else. Now we have it set up to where we actually are raising funds in our nonprofit entity where we can actually, for every $100 that comes in, we can actually donate a system to homeless shelters where they eat now can help as many as 300 people every day, and they can do that even when there's not an emergency again as well. But in an emergency, you think of them and you say, well, they're taking care of their food, they're helping with their clothing. That's great. But the number one thing that you need outside of air, I can't help you for the air. Within 3 minutes, you have a challenge. But the number one thing you need outside of that is pure water. You can't survive well past about 3 days without pure water or without water. And if it's pure, it's much better, of course. And then, of course, food for about 30 days you can survive. But if there's no water, you wouldn't be able to get to that point either. And a lot of times you need water to help with the preparation of the food as well. And then we also have found out, beside that, there are millions and billions of people around the world, literally, that don't have the access to water. They have to go and drink what's dirty wherever they can find it, or others that have some, but not really pure still. Just because you have water doesn't mean it's pure. For example, there's one person that is helping and showing people in some parts of Africa to be able to dig a well where they can find water, and he shows them how to dig the well. But even then, the water isn't necessarily pure just because you got it closer to where you were by digging a well. So you still need a purification system that will take out those things that would make you sick, like we just described. And also, anybody, for example, in those foreign countries, 15 kilometers outside of that area, the range of where that well is, they don't have any way to even get to it to have the water. So they need what we have as well, a safer, cleaner water system. So what we've done with these foreign countries, we literally are able to help them have for just around $50 per person, or it can help more than just one person. We can help families have pure water for life. And we've mentioned before, we just recently have an orphanage in Uganda that is receiving some of our filters to where they can always have pure water for the orphans they serve every day, no matter what happens, they have pure water. And that makes a major difference in their wellness and in the way they feel and all the other activities they have. Now, we also, in our nonprofit, is uagrant.com. And in there, if you want to donate to our cause to help the homeless and the homeless shelters, that's great. But you may have some friends or family or church or synagogue or a homeless shelter in your area that you'd like to do something to help them. For every $100 you donate, all you have to do is say, this is who I would like to receive it, and give us their shipping address, and we take care of everything else for you. Now you can do something of good works to help anybody. That's better present than anything I've heard about for a while. Some people wouldn't think about that as a Christmas present. It doesn't have to be a Christmas present. That present is a present that can be well welcomed every day, no matter what day you gave it to them, because it's a system that lasts them for the rest of their life in any emergency or not an emergency, have pure water. And if they want to use it instead of bottled water, how much does that help the ecosystem as well? It's amazing what happens with just a little bit of different look about things and being able to take a step or do something. And I say every once in a while, there's 4 words I hope you never have to say, I wish I had. You can always be prepared for any emergency to have pure water. All you have to do is make the choice to do that and do something so simple to help you and any others that you want to help. Next week, the next podcast, we very well likely will talk about bottled water, the world of water. Wow, world of water. But what about bottled water? Is that okay, or is there a better way to do that? And that's a huge industry. A lot of people depend and rely on that, but there's a lot of things about plastic bottles and water and plastic bottles that you may not know. That's something to think about. So next week or the next time we're together, we will share that before long and why the $300 billion industry may be selling you more hype than health. Thank you for being a part and letting us share with you from World of Water. And we'd love to see you be able to go to our website, safercleanerwater.com or uagrant.com, and participate in ways to help you, yourself, your family, your friends, the homeless, the foreign country that need pure water so bad, and we're able to serve those. And what you can do to help would be greatly appreciated. And I'm sure that that is a reward for you as well. There's nothing that feels better than doing something for others that changes their life forever. Thank you.